Hey everybody, welcome back. So as some of you may know, I live in the middle of the Sonoran Desert, and I'd like to say we're in the middle of summer here, but I have a feeling we have a few weeks to go before I can say middle. It's July 7th, and I'm not even going to bother telling you how hot it is out here in the day. Let me tell you that it's too hot for man or dog, except in the wee early hours of the morning. By 9 o'clock, at least me, I got to come in. I don't see any point in subjecting myself to it anymore. And I have been desperate to find things to do. I switched my main computer from Windows 11 to Nobara Linux. I'm using FreeCAD now instead of Fusion. I scanned all those photos and video, well, not all of them. I scanned all the photos, about 180 photos, and I scanned about 100 slides, and I've got more slides to get out and sort through. I'm still looking for things to do. It's hard to believe it was only, you know, a month or two ago that I was saying, boy, I'll be glad when the hot weather gets here so I can take a break from all this working on cars. Well, you know what? I've taken my break and now I'm bored senseless. So, anyway, I was watching a video the other day by Smarter Every Day, and if I can find it again, I'll put a link below. And that's where or in the cards, are they above or below? I can never remember. Anyway, in that video, he was trying to make blah, 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 a barbecue grill scrubber. I can't say it. A barbecue grill scrubber made in America. And his trials and tribulations of trying to find all the different parts and everything, because apparently it's a thing that when you use one of these brushes, one of the metal bristles comes out and gets in somebody's stomach. I've never even heard of that happening before, but I use one of those. Of course, I don't barbecue this time of year because it's who wants to barbecue at 5 a.m. So anyway, I thought I should make one of those. Well, that was after I saw what they cost, although you can buy cheap ones of it. But I thought to myself, I've got one of those chainmail things. And I dug through one of my cooking drawers and I found it. And you know what I got this for? Somebody gave this to me a long time ago for cleaning cast iron. I used to cook with cast iron pans, and I use this. You just dump this in the bottom of your cast iron pan and scrub it all around. Well, I haven't used cast iron for years. The premium Ninja Foodie pans cured me of cast iron. I'm not going to argue with you guys over cast iron. I know how some of you are. I was that way for years about cast iron, but the premium Ninja pans are so good. I don't see myself ever going back to cast iron. Anyway, I thought I could make a scrubber out of this. So I thought, well, I looked on Thingiverse and I looked through Yagi and I'm not finding any. So I thought, well, this will give me an excuse for something to do, and I'll fire up FreeCAD. And I know a lot of you are already getting down there in the comments going, just skip the first 5 minutes. You're wasting time. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to make your channel better. Yeah, whatever, pals. Go ahead, type it down there and see if I care, because I don't. Anyway, let's pop over to FreeCAD and let's see what I've done so far. And let's print an example of it. I'm going to print it over there on the FlashForge A5M. Let's print it over there and let's see if it turns out. Let's see if I can do something like this. If nothing else, I'll kill a few hours. Anyway, I'm gonna fire up OBS Studio so I'm not holding the camera in my hand. This is what I've got so far in FreeCAD. This would have taken me in about 7 or 8 minutes to make in Fusion, but it took me over an hour in FreeCAD just because I am so unfamiliar with what things are called. I made a sketch and I made a circle. I extruded it, or in this case, I padded it up 10 millimeters. Then I made a sketch on that surface. I put a single circle in. Just, I still haven't exactly figured out how to display um, things the way I could in Fusion. Anyway, I just drew a circle and I restrained it on this line and then with a dimension from the center point, and then I used the polar pattern to go around. Like I say, I still haven't quite figured out how to make this thing all display. Sported it
as an STL without the now my now my thing is, did I delete that? Um, I did delete that. Didn't mean to do that. I exported it. I'm telling you, I now have a bottle in my medicine cabinet marked FreeCAD. Anyway, I exported it as an STL without the threaded stud because I just want to see what it's going to print like and if it's the right size because I'm just kind of spitballing here. But anyway, I'm going to print that out and I'm going to show it to you.
Okay, here is my part. It printed a little over an hour. That's just some old PLA I had laying around. Just been playing with it, testing stuff with it. So my idea with these pins was this piece of this piece of chainmail. It's got so many of these rings in it that I should be able to put that just about anywhere, and it'll line up with some of those pins. And of course, that's not the way it's going to go. It's going to go, and I'm going to have a tough time doing this one hand. It's going to go like that, and then the rings are going to come around and hook over the pins, and the pins are not tall enough. I figured that out first time I played with it. Rings are not tall enough, and then that stud is going to stick out the top. So I'm going to make the rings about twice as the height of that, and I'm going to go ahead and put my stud in, and then I'm going to have a round disc just with matching holes in it and a hole in the center for the stud. That's going to sit down. Then I'm going to have a threaded handle. It's going to hold the whole thing compressed together with this, lapped all up around it, and that should be all I need. Anyway, let's get this modified and printed with the stud in the center.
All right, so I made these studs. I raised them from 4 millimeters to 8 millimeters, and I put a 2 millimeter fillet on the top just to make it easy to get the chainmail through it because it's going to be a little snug. Those chainmail holes are about 7 millimeters, and I think I made these 5. But also other rings go through, so it's going to be. And I wanted it to be a bit snug. Plus, it'll make it easier to fit the lid on it, I think. Okay, so here is my next piece, and all I did with this piece is I saved the first piece, and then I just went back and I deleted enough of the features, the stud in the center, the pad up from the polar array, until I deleted enough stuff till I got back to the sketch that had the single hole in it. I made the hole a millimeter bigger, and then I made the circle a millimeter bigger, and then instead of padding it up, I punched it through as a hole, and then I used polar array again to run my holes all the way around, and then I made a hole in the center. I made that 32 millimeters, and I put a very small fillet on both of these outer edges, just because I think it makes the corner look a little cleaner and less likely to get loose chunks of filament.
So when the printing was done, this is what I got. This is my little clamp down part, calling it the lid for want of a better word, and it fits over the stud things perfectly, and you can probably see the change. There was a change I wanted to make and forgot, and you can probably tell what it is, and that is I wanted to make this stud twice the height, and I didn't. And I knew I wanted to do it, and I just forgot. But nice to know that my holes all line up perfectly. Whoops. My holes all line up perfectly. Everything sits down nice. Let's throw this on it and just see what it looks like. I'm going to set the camera down and do that. All right, I didn't spend a lot of time trying to get that on there perfectly because what would be the point, because it's just coming off. But my pins line up okay, and I only get a little bit of the pin in. Obviously I get enough to engage it, and of course I can't get that on. I need to design a top piece first, but I need to make that bigger, and I think I'm going to make these pins a little bit bigger too, so let's go do that now.
So here is my base, and I did go ahead and make that stud longer. When I made it longer, it wound up making the extra length through the bottom. So I just had to come to placement and move it up to where I wanted it. And I made my pads on these pins a little longer. All that probably took a minute or two at most. And the lid I left alone because it seems perfect. I don't have an issue with that. But then I made a handle. And the first one I made didn't work. And this is the one that does work. And the original one I made, I just made myself a circle and padded it up. And then I put in, I went into the part workbench and I imported a sphere and I sunk the sphere down to where I thought it was going to be good. And then when I went to make a hole, it wouldn't go into the sphere for some reason. And I dicked around with it for 10 or 15 minutes. It would only pierce my pad. It wouldn't go into the sphere. So I said the heck with that. And I got rid of the sphere. I kept the circle disc pad on the bottom. And then I just made a sketch on the side plane. And I drew an arc and I closed it off. And then I rotated it around in 360. And that made the ball. And this time when I did it, it worked perfect. So go figure. And it's interesting when you make threads in a hole like this, you don't have to use the fastener workbench. It just automatically will do it. You just say you want a hole, and for some reason, it's making everything 6 millimeters. And I don't think it was doing that before. I draw my hole out, I make a sketch, I draw my hole out, and I click on the hole tool, and it makes no matter what size I made the hole, it makes 6 millimeters. I don't understand that. I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point. But anyway, when you make the hole, you can tell it you want it to be an M30 hole, which is what it is in this case. You can say make an M30 hole and thread it, and it does. You don't have to go to the fastener workbench. But when you make something like that, you can't just make a projection, a cylinder, and say thread it, make it M30 and thread it. At least I have not been able to find it. Anyway, just an interesting thing. So let's get these pieces printed up and let's see if they work any better.
Alrighty then, here are my next pieces. As you can see, I made the pins a little taller. I think I made them, did I make them taller? I think I made them 4 millimeters taller. May not have been that much. Yeah, looks like about 4 millimeters. Made them 4 millimeters taller, just enough to get a little bit more engagement into the holes there. And I doubled the height of the stud there. May have more than doubled it. But anyway, I made it taller. So, and I made this. And that came out really nice. And it goes on there and threads down without any real difficulty. So let's put it all together. Here, let me show you here. Let's get this out of the way. That's not going to be used. There's that. And I have more than enough room. Whoops. My balls are going everywhere. I have more than enough stud height through there. Engagement is good. And I have more than enough threaded stud height to get my piece in. So let's put it together. So there we go there. It's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it. I don't think it really needs to be super stretch tight. Another thing you got to worry about with it, and I just found that out, is you got to make sure your rings are not standing on end. Because if they're standing on end, there is no end to a circle, but standing on the side of the ring, or the cover doesn't go down nicely. And there we go, cover's down nicely. And let's put this, I'm about to lose my balls again. There they go. That thing is slippery. Oh, just no, I didn't mean that. Didn't mean that. Okay. So tighten that down to the point where that's snug. Kind of hard to do it one-handed, but there we go. There is our barbecue scrubber. Let's take it out and see how it works. Okay, I don't know how well you can see it because it's so bright out here. I am mostly blinded, but I did some hamburger cooking out here the other night and just didn't bother cleaning it up because it's so hot and miserable out. It's so hot right now you can't touch this thing without getting second-degree burns. So let's try this. Look at that, taking that right off of there. There we go. Rinse it clean and you're done. Pretty happy with that. You know what? I may make this out of something better if the PLA fails, but for right now, I'm just going to stick with the cheap PLA. Anyway, that was a fun little project. That took a couple of days, wasted a couple of days of my time, at least, 4 or 5 hours over a couple of days. Anyway, thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye for now.